Humanity had held the line for 10 years against the Zyx Dominion, an empire of biomechanical warlords who consumed entire planets. The Terran Defense Fleet had fought in the asteroid belts of Vesper Prime, in the burning ruins of Alpha Centauri, and even on the shattered crust of Mars. But after a decade of attrition, the Zyx forces had pushed humanity to its final bastion, Earth. Orbit was under siege. The planetary defense grid was failing. Millions of Terran soldiers had died, and the remnants were dug into the cities, preparing for the last stand. The United Human Front, UHF, knew that surrender meant annihilation. The Zyx did not take prisoners. They assimilated. They converted flesh into metal, mind into code. It was over, until he arrived. Codename, Baba Yaga. In the ruins of Old Moscow, deep beneath the remnants of the Kremlin, a hidden chamber opened for the first time in a century. The doors were 6 meters thick, reinforced with classified alloys unknown to the public. A figure emerged, a legend, a nightmare, a relic from a forgotten war. His real name was lost to time. The only name the records carried was Baba Yaga, a warrior of the old Earth Wars, a soldier who had once ended 3 planetary rebellions single-handedly, a monster that the UHF had sealed away because his methods were too extreme, too absolute. Even humanity had feared him, but desperate times called for desperate monsters. The moment he stepped into the light, the UHF command channels went silent. Even the top admirals, men and women who had seen worlds burn, whispered his name with reverence. His body was enhanced beyond recognition, cybernetic augmentations grafted onto battle-hardened flesh. His eyes glowed a dull red, scanning for threats that weren't even visible yet. His voice was a growl, a promise of destruction. The first thing he said upon awakening: "How many of them are left?" When told that the Zyx fleet was endless, that their armies had overrun the colonies, that Earth was doomed, Baba Yaga simply cracked his knuckles. Not for long. The massacre at Luna Base. The Zyx Dominion had left no room for mercy. Their flagship, the Vragol, a biometal monstrosity the size of a small moon, hovered above Earth like a vulture. Their ground forces had begun their march through the shattered remains of humanity's cities, executing survivors and assimilating others. Then, suddenly, a complete blackout. The Dominion's communications ceased. Their war machines stopped responding. Their flagship, which had been transmitting its victory to the entire empire, fell silent. And then the screams began. A squad of Zyx warriors, 10 feet tall and made of shifting metal plates, patrolled the ruins of New London when something moved in the shadows. One by one, they were dragged into the darkness. The sounds of tearing metal, of something crunching through their armored bodies, echoed through the ruined streets. Then came the bodies. Not just killed, destroyed. Ripped apart with brutal efficiency, their cybernetic implants torn out, their advanced processing cores shattered like cheap glass. One survivor managed to transmit a final message before being silenced. "It is not human. It is static." Within hours, entire battalions disappeared. Zyx warlords, who had survived 1,000 planetary campaigns, found themselves hunted. Not in open combat, but in the dark, in places where their technology could not track the movement of death itself. It was Baba Yaga. Alone, he tore through their forces like a force of nature, wielding weapons crafted from fallen enemies, using strategies that defied logic. He was relentless, a shadow given form. The Zyx, who had feared nothing in their existence, now feared the dark. The fall of the Vragol. When the Zyx High Command realized what was happening, they turned their orbital weapons on the ruins below. They bombarded their own forces, hoping to eliminate him. It didn't work, because Baba Yaga wasn't just one man anymore. He had left trails of destruction, igniting something deep within the remnants of humanity. The soldiers who had lost hope, the civilians who had been prepared to die in silence, they rose. They followed the monster. A guerrilla war exploded across Earth. What was supposed to be a swift extermination turned into a nightmare. The humans, learning from Baba Yaga's brutal efficiency, fought without fear, without hesitation. They became hunters. And then Baba Yaga did the unthinkable. He boarded the Vrogol.
How?
No one knows. One moment, the warship's hull was intact. The next, it had been breached. The last transmission from the Zyx commander was simple. He's inside. The next hour was a massacre. Baba Yaga slaughtered his way through the corridors, disabling their security systems, turning their own weapons against them. The flagship, the heart of the invasion, became a tomb. The final explosion lit up Earth's sky. The Vrogol did not just fall, it was erased. Aftermath. The war was never lost. It just needed a monster. With their command shattered, the Zyx forces crumbled. What was once a planet on the brink of extinction became a battlefield of vengeance. Humanity, inspired by the terror Baba Yaga had unleashed upon their enemies, pushed back. The Zyx fled. Earth was not conquered. And as for Baba Yaga, he vanished. No body was found. No trace remained. Some say he returned to his tomb beneath the Kremlin. Others believe he still walks among the ruins, waiting for the next war. But every soldier, every survivor, and every alien who witnessed what happened that day knew one thing. The war was lost until Baba Yaga showed up.